Today, I'm going to give you my rapid fire grades for every NBA team's trade deadline. All 30 of them. Going to try and do it as fast as possible. This video is a little bit late. As a Blazer fan, didn't have the best trade deadline. Needed a weekend to recover, and then I got slapped in the face by a Gary Payton II saga. I'll have a video on that soon. Anyway, we're going to do this in alphabetical order. Let's get started. The Hawks had a very boring trade deadline. They got Saddiq Bey for 5 second-round picks and then swapped Justin Holiday and Frank Kaminsky for Bruno Fernando and Garrison Matthews. John Collins has been in rumors for a while now and still hasn't been traded. He is the next Miles Turner, and the Hawks probably needed a little bit more in order to make a run this year. They didn't get it, therefore I'm only going to give them a C. Boston did basically nothing. They traded a couple second-round picks for Mike Muscala, who's a shooting big off the bench, to give their big lineup some more depth. Of course, they don't need to do anything. They're phenomenal and maybe the favorite to win the NBA championship. Muscala's a solid pickup, though. I'm gonna give him a B. Goodbye Kevin Durant, goodbye Kyrie Irving. They completely shake things up and honestly get pretty solid value for both. I really like Mikal Bridges, like Dorian Finney-Smith. It's going to be interesting to see that team and how good they are and if they can be in the playoffs in the East. I really like the value they got back for Kevin Durant. If you were going to trade Kevin Durant, now was the time to do it right after trading Kyrie. Those 4 unprotected first-round picks is a legitimate haul. Those could be really good down the line after Chris Paul and Kevin Durant retire, so I give the Nets a B+. The Hornets traded Jalen McDaniels and Mason Plumlee for Reggie Jackson and Svi Mykhailiuk. Reggie Jackson gets bought out, and they got 2 second-round picks for Plumlee and McDaniels. There was rumors that they might have been able to get a first for McDaniels, so therefore this is a major L. I give the Hornets a D-. The Bulls did nothing, and they were one of the teams that needed to do something. They needed to add guys in order to get better this year to make a run, or they needed to just get rid of DeRozan and LaVine and start a rebuild. The fact that they didn't choose either and did absolutely nothing is terrible. I give them an F. Meanwhile, Cleveland did nothing. They added Danny Green via the buyout market, but we're not taking that much into consideration. Cleveland didn't need to do a whole lot. They got a good young team, some solid depth. They've been really, really good this year. Their inactivity is fine. I'm not going to grade their inactivity like I did with Chicago's. Dallas gets Kyrie, finally gets a second star next to Luka. There's some question marks about Kyrie re-signing, however it sounds like that might be likely. And I did a whole video on this trade, and I also graded this trade for them in that video. I forget what I graded it. I'm gonna give it a B-. The Nuggets traded Bones Highland and Davon Reed, as well as 3 second-round picks, and got back Thomas Bryant and 2 second-round picks. Highland is a better asset than Bryant, but things went sour with him there in Denver. Bryant is a free agent this summer and could leave for nothing. Supposedly, Bryant wanted a bigger role than he was going to be able to get down the stretch for the Lakers. I don't know how he's going to get that behind Nikola Jokic in Denver. So I don't like this trade deadline for the Nuggets. I'm going to give it a D+. Meanwhile, the Pistons took a chance on James Wiseman, even though they have Jalen Duren. Kind of strange. They better not bench Duren. I would just play both those bigs together at this point, but that's very clunky. I mean, it helps them tank. I just don't really understand what the thought process was here. You're gambling on a guy. I get it. He was the 2nd overall pick. 4 years from now, this trade could be an A+. But at this time, I can only give it a C-. The Warriors traded away James Wiseman for Gary Payton II as part of a 4-team deal. As far as the GP2 failed physical and everything that was a part of that, as I said, I'll have a video on that coming up soon. But given the way the Warriors have handled this situation, I don't think they've handled it well. I think there's some fishy stuff going on, and I don't think this is good value anyway. And the Warriors could have re-signed GP2 during free agency last year, so I give the Warriors a D+. We're on a run of bad grades right now. Next up is the Rockets. They trade Eric Gordon, Bruno Fernando, and Garrison Matthews. They get back a pick swap and some assets that don't really matter. That pick swap probably isn't going to be much because the Clippers and Bucks are both good. In previous years, the Rockets have turned down first-round picks for Eric Gordon. Now they trade him to move up maybe 3 to 5 picks in the draft next year. I can't give this a good grade either. D+. The Indiana Pacers acquired 3 second-round picks, as well as George Hill, Jordan Nwora, and Serge Ibaka. They cut 3 players to make room for this trade, and basically they just used some cap space that they had in order to get some second-round picks, as well as a solid young piece in Jordan Nwora. I actually think this was a really solid, under-the-radar move for the Pacers just to accumulate assets. I give it a B+. The Clippers trade Luke Kennard, Reggie Jackson, and John Wall. Give the Rockets that pick swap I talked about in 3 second-round picks. They get back Gordon Plumlee and Bones Highland. I think they're a little bit better. Luke Kennard for Bones Highland I don't think is an upgrade, but you add Eric Gordon into that, and Reggie Jackson had some issues. The Clippers were looking for a point guard upgrade, and instead they traded their 2 point guards, so I don't know what they're going to do there. It'll be interesting to see. Maybe Bones Highland starts, but it's not a great option, so depending on what the Clippers get in the buyout market, that could affect this grade, but overall value-wise, I think it was very solid. I'm going to give the Clippers a B. The other team in Los Angeles hit a home run. Russell, Beasley, Bamba, Vanderbilt, Rui. They traded out Westbrook finally, Beverly, Thomas Bryant, Juan Toscano Anderson, and Damian Jones. They only had to trade 1 first-round pick in this trade, which is blasphemous, and they got role players that addressed specific needs. Malik Beasley is a shooter, Mo Bamba is a stretch 5, Jared Vanderbilt is a versatile defensive 4, D'Angelo Russell a point guard, and then Rui is a bench scoring 4 who's been starting for them. It'll be interesting to see what they do with this lineup over the rest of the year, but this was a great trade. Asset value-wise, I can't believe the Lakers got this much for a protected future first. I give the Lakers an A+. The Grizzlies traded out 3 second-round picks and Danny Green for Luke Kennard. The Grizzlies desperately needed shooting. Luke Kennard brings that in spades. A- for the Grizzlies. The Heat traded away Dwayne Dedmon to get under the luxury tax, attached 2 second-round picks, and did nothing else. I think they needed to do something else, but they did duck the tax for a guy that really isn't good. So I'm going to give it a C. The Bucks acquired Jake Crowder for 5 second-round picks, George Hill, Jordan Nwora, and Serge Ibaka. I'm not a big Jake Crowder fan, but he does slot into the role that PJ Tucker used to fill, and PJ Tucker, of course, was very impactful in that role. I just think Jake Crowder is a little over the hill and a little bit overrated. Still, I'll give the Bucks a B-. Timberwolves traded D'Angelo Russell for Mike Conley, Nickeil Alexander-Walker, and a second-round pick. The Timberwolves got worse. I know there was rumors about problems between D'Angelo Russell and Rudy Gobert in the Minnesota locker room, but the fact that they couldn't get back better value for D'Angelo Russell doesn't make much sense. Mike Conley and Rudy Gobert have played together before, so I get why the Timberwolves did this trade, but in terms of asset value, it's not good. I give it a C-. The Pelicans traded 4 second-round picks as well as Devontae Graham, who's on a terrible contract, for Josh Richardson to be a wing defender off the bench. I mean, I guess Jay Rich could start, but regardless of how the Pelicans use him, I would have thought that they would have needed to attach 4 second-round picks just to get off that Devontae Graham contract. So the fact that they got something back with that is phenomenal. A. The Knicks traded a future first as well as Cam Reddish, Ryan Arcidiacono, and Svi Mykhailiuk for Josh Hart, who I think is a really good fit as a rebounder, is a perfect Tom Thibodeau type of player, can play in any role. I think is going to be better coming off the bench than he was starting in Portland this year. I give the Knicks a B+. The Thunder basically did nothing. They didn't want to re-sign Darius Bazley this offseason and got back expiring contracts. They've already cut Justin Jackson. They did get back 3 second-round picks. This is just very boring. The most boring grade is probably a C+. The Magic traded Mo Bamba for Pat Bev and a second-round pick. The fact that they couldn't get back more for Bamba is a little bit sad. They probably should have traded him a year or 2 ago. This value is not great. I give it a C-. The Sixers traded Matisse Thybulle for Jalen McDaniels. I think this is a win for the Sixers. Matisse Thybulle is one-dimensional, wasn't playing a whole lot. Jalen McDaniels has two-way potential. It just needs to find some consistency. Playing for a winning team and a winning organization might help him find that. I give the Sixers an A- for this trade. The Phoenix Suns. Kevin Durant, TJ Warren, Darius Bazley, they went all in, gave up a ton in the process, but it makes a ton of sense. You got Chris Paul, who's aging. You have to capitalize on this window and maximize it, and the Suns did just that with the KD trade. I give the Suns an A. My Portland Trailblazers have absolutely no direction. They traded away Josh Hart and Gary Payton II for Cam Reddish, Kevin Knox, Ryan Arcidiacono, a 2023 New York first that turns into 4 seconds if the Knicks don't make the playoffs, and then they also got 5 second-round picks back for Gary Payton II. The Blazers haven't had second-round picks in previous years. Now they might have a ton of them. I mean, asset value-wise, it's not the worst, but are the Blazers trying to win around Damian Lillard? They didn't really set themselves up for the playoffs. They didn't set themselves up for the offseason. They got back a couple of guys that'll be free agents and traded a trade chip in Gary Payton II. Just seems like Portland has no direction right now. I am not happy with this trade deadline for them. I give it a D+. The Sacramento Kings traded away nothing. Got back Kessler Edwards, who's actually a good, solid young prospect to try and develop. B+. The San Antonio Spurs trade out Jakob Poeltl and Josh Richardson for that bad Devontae Graham contract and a bad Khem Birch contract. And they get back a first as well as 6 second-round picks. If they didn't have those bad contracts on the books now, I would give this a good grade, but given the fact that they have those bad contracts, I give the Spurs a C-. The Raptors trade out Khem Birch as well as a future first for Jakob Poeltl, who returns to Toronto. This trade deadline involved a bunch of players going back to places they played before. I mean, value-wise, this is solid for the Raptors. They needed a center, but they needed to trade OG Anunoby. He's going to be a free agent in a couple of years and probably leave via free agency. This is a buyer's market, and the Raptors could have gotten back a ton for him. The forward experiment hasn't worked so far. The fact that the Raptors didn't capitalize on OG Anunoby is a mistake. I feel like they might trade him in the next year or two for less than they could have gotten for Anunoby at this year's trade deadline. Therefore, I give the Raptors a D+. The Utah Jazz traded away Conley, Vanderbilt, and Beasley for a first-round pick and an expiring Russell Westbrook contract. I thought they would be able to get a first-round pick back for Beasley and Vanderbilt, and I didn't think Mike Conley's contract was that bad. I mean, Minnesota valued his contract. They were willing to give up D'Angelo Russell for it. Basically, the Lakers fleeced in this 3-team trade between the Jazz, Timberwolves, and Lakers, and I give the Jazz a D+ as well. I do not like this value for him. The Wizards at the trade deadline technically didn't do anything, but earlier they traded Rui Hachimura, didn't get much back from him. This inactivity for the Wizards ends off the video on an anticlimactic note with a C. Anyway, that is my trade deadline grades for every NBA team for this year's trade deadline. Let me know what you think of these grades down in the comment section below. Let me know what grades you disagree with. Let me know what you do agree with, and give me your thoughts on your favorite team. I felt like I was a little harsh in this video, but I felt like this year's trade deadline was a lot of teams capitalizing upon other teams, especially the Lakers, who fleeced 2 teams somehow in one trade. And I'm expecting some of you to yell at me for not being happy with your favorite team's trade deadline. I'm ready for it. Leave a like on this video. It helps out the channel and I greatly appreciate it. And with that, I'm out of here. Until next time, peace.